Hi, you guys. It is Wednesday again. Sorry, I am feeling out of breath. I have just been kind of rushing around. I don't know where the last hour went. So we are a little less than prepared, or at least as prepared as I would like. So we're just going to take a breath and wait to see who shows up tonight. I know I had said rain or shine, but is looking more like rain than shine. And they are also still renovating the house next door. So we are going to be inside, so we have just our noise. I heard power tools. So we're going to try to limit the ambient noise. As I say, I'm going to try to take a break, take a breath, get myself ready to go. So glad to see a few of you here already. Hen, hello. I'll be watching you at 8. Cheryl, hi, honey. I love the pictures of the new house. I cannot wait to see the inside. Yes, I do, Hen, and I hear your voice every time I do this. So thank you so much for your support and being here with me. It's been an emotional, 10 days now for everybody. So I am glad we are here to do this, to hang out together, just get our minds off things just for a little bit. I know everybody kind of needs that. And as I tell you guys, every time we're together, I appreciate you so much. And I couldn't do this without you guys. So thank you so much for being here. We're going to do some more of the Just So stories tonight. In fact, I'm feeling so scattered. I'm trying to remember what we did last week. So I will look at this. And we'll kind of see what we want to do. I think we're going to do how the rhinoceros got his skin. And possibly the crab that played with the sea. If we've got time, we'll do a few more. If you guys want to chat, we can do that too. I love you guys. I hope you are keeping yourselves grounded. I know there's a lot of feelings. A lot of feelings. For a lot of us, we're allies. That's all we can be. We're not gonna have those same struggles. We will have our own, and we will deal with them, and we will ask for help when we can. And we just have to be together, just loving each other. And I hope you guys know this is, this is a safe house. If you need to talk, you need to scream, if you need to cry, this is a good house for that. There's always coffee, probably 2 to 3 pots a day. So you need a hot drink and a talk, we have that. There's juice, milk, water, whatever. Sorry, I know I'm rambling, but this has really got me in the feels. Just really, I don't feel helpless. I feel sad. I feel sad that the difference is, I don't know, the level of noise. The level of noise it takes to be heard. I don't have to try that hard. I'm very, very lucky. I don't have to try that hard. So it hurts to see your kids worry. We had Ashley's senior parade Monday night, and it was awesome. And everybody was on downtown streets, the Walnut Street in Muncie, and they had signs and they were cheering, and it was such a breath of fresh air to see people gathered for a good reason. But that's not the case everywhere. And there were 2 protests in Muncie that could have gone sideways, and they didn't. We were very, very lucky. So on that, I will stop. Because that's it. And we are here to breathe and be together. So we're going to start tonight with how the rhinoceros got his skin, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. Once upon a time, on an uninhabited island on the shores of the Red Sea, there lived a Parsee from whose hat the rays of the sun were reflected in more than oriental splendor. And the Parsee lived by the Red Sea with nothing but his hat and his knife and a cooking stove of the kind that you must particularly never touch. And one day he took flour and water and currants and plums and sugar and things, and made himself one cake which was 2 feet across and 3 feet thick. It was indeed a superior comestible. That's magic. And he put it on the stove because he was allowed to cook on that stove. And he baked it till it was all done brown and smelt most sentimental. But just as he was going to eat it, there came down the beach from the altogether uninhabited interior one rhinoceros with a horn on his nose, 2 piggy eyes, and few manners. In those days, the rhinoceros's skin fitted him quite tight. There were no wrinkles in it anywhere. He looked exactly like a Noah's Ark rhinoceros, but of course much bigger. All the same, he had no manners then, and he has no manners now, and he never will have any manners. He said, "How?" And the Parsee left that cake and climbed to the top of a palm tree with nothing on but his hat, from which the rays of the sun were always reflected in more than oriental splendor. And the rhinoceros upset the oil stove with his nose, and the cake rolled on the sand, and he spiked that cake on the horn of his nose, and he ate it. And he went away, waving his tail, to the desolate and exclusively uninhabited interior, which abuts on the islands of Mazandaran, Socotra, and the promontories of the larger equinox. Then the Parsee came down from his palm tree, and put the stove on its legs, and recited the following sloka, which, as you have not heard, I will now proceed to relate. Them that takes cakes, which the Parsee man bakes, makes dreadful mistakes. And there was a great deal more in that than you would think, because 5 weeks later, there was a great heat wave in the Red Sea, and everybody took off all the clothes they had. The Parsee took off his hat, but the rhinoceros took off his skin and carried it over his shoulder as he came down to the beach to bathe. In those days, it buttoned underneath with 3 buttons and looked like a waterproof. He said nothing whatever about the Parsee's cake, because he had eaten it all, and he never had any manners, then, since, or henceforward. He waddled straight into the water and blew bubbles through his nose, leaving his skin on the beach. Presently the Parsee came by and found the skin, and he smiled one smile that ran all around his face 2 times. Then he danced 3 times round the skin and rubbed his hands. Then he went to his camp and filled his hat with cake crumbs, for the Parsee never ate anything but cake, and never swept out his camp. He took that skin, and he shook that skin, and he scrubbed that skin, and he rubbed that skin just as full of old, dry, stale, tickly cake crumbs and some burned currants as ever it could possibly hold. Then he climbed to the top of his palm tree and waited for the rhinoceros to come out of the water and put it on. And the rhinoceros did. He buttoned it up with the 3 buttons, and it tickled like cake crumbs in bed. Then he wanted to scratch, but that made it worse. And then he lay down on the sands and rolled and rolled and rolled, and every time he rolled, the cake crumbs tickled him worse and worse and worse. Then he ran to the palm tree and rubbed and rubbed and rubbed himself against it. He rubbed so much and so hard that he rubbed his skin into a great fold over his shoulders, and another fold underneath, where the buttons used to be, but he rubbed the buttons off. And he rubbed some more folds over his legs, and it spoiled his temper, but it didn't make the least difference to the cake crumbs. They were still inside his skin, and they tickled. So he went home, very angry indeed, and horribly scratchy, And from that day to this, every rhinoceros has great folds in his skin and a very bad temper, all on account of the cake crumbs inside. But the Parsee came down from his palm tree, wearing his hat, from which the rays of the sun were reflected in more than oriental splendor, packed up his cooking stove, and went away in the direction of Orotavo, Amygdala, and the upland meadows of Anantibaro, and the marshes of Sonaput. And there's a little poem at the end of this one. This uninhabited island is off Cape Gardfuli, by the beaches of Socotra and the pink Arabian Sea. But it's hot, too hot from Suez, for the likes of you and me, ever to go in a P&O and call on the cake Parsee. Oh, those are so cute. Okay, let's... Aw, thanks, Jason. I love you guys. You're so great. Okay. Oh, I don't think we read this one. We did not. So we're going to read this one. This is how the leopard got his spots. There's the next one in the book. But it is only 7:11. We have all kinds of time. And I am spending it with you guys. I could not be happier. So how the leopard got his spots. In the days when everybody started fair, best beloved, the leopard lived in a place called the High Veld. Remember, it wasn't the Low Veld, or the Bush Veld, or the Sour Veld, but the exclusively bare, hot, shiny High Veld, where there was sand and sandy-colored rock and exclusively tufts of sandy yellowish grass. The giraffe and the zebra and the eland and the kudu and the hartebeest lived there, and they were exclusively sandy yellow-brownish all over. But the leopard, he was the exclusivest, sandiest, yellowish-brownest of them all. A grayish, yellowish, catty-shaped kind of beast, and he matched the exclusively sandy yellow-brownish color of the High Veld to one hair. This was very bad for the giraffe and the zebra and the rest of them, for he would lie down by exclusively yellowish, grayish, brownish stone or clump of grass. And when the giraffe or the zebra or the eland or the kudu or the bushbuck or the bontebuck came by, he would surprise them out of their jumpsome lives. He would indeed. And also, there was an Ethiopian with bows and arrows, exclusively grayish, brownish, yellowish man he was then, who lived on the High Veld with the leopard, and the two used to hunt together, the Ethiopian with his bows and arrows, and the leopard exclusively with his teeth and claws, till the giraffe and the eland and the kudu and the quagga and all the rest of them didn't know which way to jump, best beloved. They didn't, indeed. After a long time, things lived for ever so long in those days. They learned to avoid anything that looked like a leopard or an Ethiopian, and bit by bit, the giraffe began it because his legs were the longest. They went away from the High Veld. They scuttled for days and days and days till they came to a great forest, exclusively full of trees and bushes and stripy, speckly, patchy, blatchy shadows. And there they hid. And after another long time, what with standing half in the shade and half out of it, and what with the slippery, slidey shadows of the trees falling on them, the giraffe grew blotchy, and the zebra grew stripy, and the eland and the kudu grew darker, with little wavy gray lines on their backs like bark on a tree trunk. And so, though you could hear them and smell them, you could very seldom see them, and then only when you knew precisely where to look. They had a beautiful time in the exclusively speckly, spickly shadows of the forest, while the leopard and the Ethiopian ran about over the exclusively grayish, yellowish, reddish High Veld outside, wondering where all their breakfasts and their dinners and their teas had gone. At last, they were so hungry that they ate rats and beetles and rock rabbits, the leopard and the Ethiopian. And then they had the big tummy ache, both together. And then they met Babian, the dog-headed barking baboon, who is quite the wisest animal in all of South Africa. Said Leopard to the baboon, and it was a very hot day. Where has all the game gone? And the baboon winked. He knew. Said the Ethiopian to the baboon, can you tell me the present habitat of the aboriginal fauna? That meant just the same thing, but the Ethiopian always used long words. He was a grown-up. And the baboon winked. He knew. Then said the baboon, the game has gone into other spots. And my advice to you, leopard, is to go into other spots as soon as you can. And the Ethiopian said, that is all very fine, but I wish to know whether the aboriginal fauna has migrated. Then, said the baboon, the aboriginal fauna has joined the aboriginal flora because it was high time for a change. And my advice to you, Ethiopian, is to change as soon as you can. That puzzled the leopard and the Ethiopian, but they set off to look for the aboriginal flora, and presently, after ever so many days, they saw a great, high, tall forest, full of tree trunks all exclusively speckled and spotted and spotted, dotted and splashed and slashed and hatched and cross-hatched with shadows. Say that quickly aloud and you will see how very shadowy the forest must have been. What is this, said the leopard, that's so exclusively dark and yet so full of little pieces of light? I don't know, said the Ethiopian, but it ought to be the aboriginal flora. I can smell giraffe and I can hear giraffe, but I can't see giraffe. That's curious, said the leopard. I suppose it is because we've just come in out of the sunshine. I can smell zebra and I can hear zebra, but I can't see zebra. Wait a bit, said the Ethiopian. It's a long time since we've hunted them. Perhaps we've forgotten what they were like. Fiddle, said the leopard. I remember them perfectly on the high veld, especially their marrow bones. Giraffe is about 17 feet high, of exclusively fulvous golden yellow from head to heel. And zebra is about 4.5 feet high, of exclusively gray fawn color from head to heel. Said the Ethiopian, looking into the spickly shadows of the aboriginal flora forest. Then they ought to show up in this dark place like ripe bananas in a smokehouse. But they didn't. The leopard and the Ethiopian hunted all day, and though they could smell them and hear them, they never saw one of them. For goodness sake, said the leopard at tea time, let us wait till it gets dark. This daylight hunting is a perfect scandal. So they waited till dark, and then the leopard heard something breathing sniffily in the starlight that fell all stripy through the branches. And he jumped at the noise, and it smelt like zebra, and it felt like zebra. And when he knocked it down, it kicked like zebra, but he couldn't see it. So he said, Be quiet, oh you person without any form. I am going to sit on your head till morning, because there's something about you that I don't understand. Presently he heard a grunt and a crash and a scramble, and the Ethiopian called out, I've caught a thing that I can't see. It smells like giraffe, and it kicks like giraffe, but it hasn't any form. Don't you trust it, said the leopard. Sit on its head till the morning, same as me. They haven't any form, any of them. So they sat down on them hard till bright morning time, and then Leopard said, What have you at the end of your table, brother? The Ethiopian scratched his head and said, It ought to be exclusively a rich fulvous orange tawny from head to heel, and it ought to be giraffe, but is covered all over with chestnut blotches. What have you at your end of the table, brother? And the leopard scratched his head and said, It ought to be exclusively a delicate grayish fawn, and it ought to be zebra, but it is covered all over with black and purple stripes. What in the world have you been doing to yourself, zebra? Don't you know that if you were on the high veld, I could see you 10 miles off? You haven't any form. Yes, said the zebra, but this isn't the high veld. Can't you see? I can now, said the leopard, but I couldn't all yesterday. How is it done? Let us up, said the zebra, and we will show you. Then they let the zebra and the giraffe get up, and Zebra moved away to some little thorn bushes where the sunlight fell all stripy, and Giraffe moved off to some tallish trees where the shadows fell all blotchy. "Now watch," said the Zebra and the Giraffe. "This is the way it's done. 1, 2, 3. And where's your breakfast?" Leopard stared, and Ethiopian stared, but all they could see were stripy shadows and blotched shadows in the forest, but never a sign of Zebra and Giraffe. They had just walked off and hidden themselves in the shadowy forest. "Hi, hi," said the Ethiopian. "That's a trick worth learning. Take a lesson by it, Leopard. You show up in this dark place like a bar of soap in a coal scuttle." "Ha ha," said the Leopard. "Would it surprise you very much to know that you show up in this dark place like a mustard plaster on a sack of coals?" "Well, calling names won't catch dinner," said the Ethiopian. "The long and the little of it is that we don't match our backgrounds. I'm going to take the baboon's advice. He told me I ought to change, and as I've nothing to change except my skin, I'm going to change that." "What to?" said the Leopard, tremendously excited. "To a nice working blackish-brownish color, with a little purple in it, and touches of slaty blue. It will be the very thing for hiding in hollows and behind trees." So he changed his skin then and there, and the Leopard was more excited than ever. He had never seen a man change his skin before. "But what about me?" he said, when the Ethiopian had worked his last little finger into his fine new black skin. "You take the baboon's advice too. He told you to go into spots." "So I did," said the Leopard. "I went into other spots as fast as I could. I went into this spot with you, and a lot of good it has done me." "Oh," said the Ethiopian, "the baboon didn't mean spots in South Africa. He meant spots on your skin." "What's the use of that?" said the Leopard. "Think of Giraffe," said the Ethiopian. "Or if you prefer stripes, think of Zebra. They found their spots, and stripes gave them perfect satisfaction." Said the Leopard. "I wouldn't look like Zebra. Not forever so." "Well, make up your mind," said the Ethiopian, "because I'd hate to go hunting without you, but I must if you insist on looking like a sunflower against a tarred fence." "I'll take spots then," said the Leopard. "But don't make them too vulgar big. I wouldn't look like Giraffe, not forever so." "I'll make them with the tips of my fingers," said the Ethiopian. "There's still plenty of black left on my skin still. Stand over there." Then the Ethiopian put his 5 fingers close together, there was plenty of black left on his new skin still, and pressed them all over the Leopard, and wherever the 5 fingers touched, they left 5 little black marks, all close together. You can see them on any leopard skin you like, Best Beloved. Sometimes the finger slipped and the marks got a little blurred, but if you look closely at any leopard now, you will see that there are always 5 spots, all 5 fat black fingertips. "Now you are a beauty," said the Ethiopian. "You can lie out on bare ground and look like a heap of pebbles. You can lie out on the naked rocks and look like a piece of pudding stone. You can lie out on a leafy branch and look like sunshine sifting through the leaves, and you can lie right across the center of a path and look like nothing in particular. Think of that and purr." "But if I'm all this," said the Leopard, "why don't you go spotty too?" "Oh, plain black's best," said the Ethiopian. "Now come along and we'll see if we can get even with Mr. 1, 2, 3, where's your breakfast?" So they went away and lived happily ever after, Best Beloved. That is all. Aw, thanks for the loves, guys. Let's see. Oh, where's our little crab? Our little crab. Crab. He is on page 103. Yes. The crab that played with the sea. Before the high and far-off times, O my Best Beloved, came the time of the very beginnings. And that was in the days when the eldest magician was getting things ready. First, he got the earth ready. Then he got the sea ready. And then he told all the animals that they could come out and play. And the animals said, "O eldest magician, what shall we play at?" And he said, "I will show you." And he took the elephant, all the elephant there was, and said, "Play at being an elephant." And all the elephant there was played. He took the beaver, all the beaver there was, and said, "Play at being a beaver." And all the beaver there was played. He took the cow, all the cow there was, and said, "Play at being a cow." And all the cow there was played. He took the turtle, all the turtle there was, and said, "Play at being a turtle." And all the turtle there was played. One by one he took all the beasts and birds and fishes and told them what to play at. But toward evening, when people came and things grew restless and tired, there came up the man with his own little girl daughter. Yes, with his own best beloved little girl daughter sitting upon his shoulder. And he said, "What is this play, eldest magician?" And the eldest magician said, "Oh, son of Adam, this is the play of the very beginning. But you are too wise for this play." And the man saluted and said, "Yes, I am too wise for this play. But see that you make all the animals obedient to me." Now, while the two were talking together, Pauama, the crab, who was next in the game, scuttled off sideways and stepped into the sea, saying to himself, "I will play my play alone in the deep waters, and I will never be obedient to this son of Adam." Nobody saw him go away except the little girl daughter, where she leaned on the man's shoulder. And the play went on till there were no more animals left without orders, and the eldest magician wiped the fine dust off his hands and walked about the world to see how the animals were playing. He went north, best beloved, and he found all the elephant there was, digging with his tusks and stamping with his feet in the nice, new, clean earth that had been made ready for him. "Coon," said all the elephant there was, meaning, "Is this all right?" "Hiya, Coon," said the eldest magician, meaning, "That is quite right." And he breathed upon the great rocks and lumps of the earth that all the elephant there was had thrown up, and they became the great Himalayan mountains, and you can look at them on the map. He went east, and he found all the cow there was feeding in the field that had been made ready for her, and she licked her tongue round a whole forest at a time, and swallowed it, and sat down to chew her cud. "Coon," said all the cow there was. "Hiya, Coon," said the eldest magician, and he breathed upon the bare patch where she had eaten, and upon the place where she had sat down, and one became the great Indian desert, and the other became the desert of Sahara, and you could look at them on the map. He went west, and he found all the beaver there was making a beaver dam across the mouths of broad rivers that had been got ready for him. "Coon," said all the beaver there was. "Hiya, Coon," said the eldest magician, and he breathed upon the fallen trees and the still water, and they became the Everglades in Florida, and you may look them up on the map. Then he went south and found all the turtle there was, scratching with his flippers in the sand that had been got ready for him, and the sand and the rocks whirled through the air and fell far off into the sea. "Coon," said all the turtle there was. "Hiya, Coon," said the eldest magician, and he breathed upon the sand and the rocks where they had fallen in the sea, and they became the most beautiful islands of Borneo, Celebes, Sumatra, Java, and the rest of the Malay archipelago, and you can look them out on the map. By and by the eldest magician met the man on the banks of the Perak River, and said, "Ho, son of Adam, are all the animals obedient to you?" "Yes," said the man. "Is all the earth obedient to you?" "Yes." "Is all the sea obedient to you?" "No," said the man. Once a day and once a night the sea runs up on the Perak River and drives the sweet water back into the forest, so that my house is made wet. Once a day and once a night it runs down the river and draws all the water after it, so that there's nothing left but mud, and my canoe is upset. Is that the play you told it to play?" "No," said the eldest magician. "That is a new and a bad play." "Look," said the man, and as he spoke the great sea came up the mouth of the Perak River, driving the river backwards till it overflowed all the dark forest for miles and miles, and flooded the man's house. "This is wrong. Launch your canoe and we will find out who is playing with the sea," said the eldest magician. They stepped into the canoe. The little girl daughter came with them, and the man took his kris, a curving, wavy dagger with a blade like a flame, and they pushed out on the Perak River. Then the sea began to run back and back, and the canoe was sucked out of the mouth of the Perak River, past Selangor, past Malacca, past Singapore, out and out to the island of Bintang, as though it had been pulled by a string. Then the eldest magician stood up and shouted, "Beasts and birds and fishes that I took between my hands at the very beginning, and taught the play that you should play, which one of you is playing with the sea?" Then all the beasts, birds, and fishes said together, "Eldest magician, we play the plays that you taught us to play, we and our children's children, but not one of us plays with the sea." Then the moon rose big and full over the water, and the eldest magician said to the hunchbacked old man who sits in the moon, spinning a fishing line with which he hopes one day to catch the world, "Fisher of the moon, are you playing games with the sea?" "No," said the fisherman, "I am spinning a line with which I shall someday catch the world, but I do not play with the sea." And he went on spinning his line. Now there was also a rat up in the moon, who always bites the old fisherman's line as fast as it is made. And the eldest magician said to him, "Rat of the moon, are you playing with the sea?" And the rat said, "I am too busy biting through the line that this old fisherman is spinning. I do not play with the sea." And he went on biting the line. Then the little girl daughter put up her little soft brown arms with the beautiful white shell bracelets and said, "Oh, eldest magician, when my father here talked to you at the very beginning, and I leaned upon his shoulder while the beasts were taught their plays, one beast went away naughtily into the sea before you had taught him his play." And the eldest magician said, "How wise are little children who see and are silent. What was the beast like?" And the little girl daughter said, "He was round, and he was flat, and his eyes grew upon stalks, and he walked sideways like this, and he was covered with strong armor upon his back." And the eldest magician said, "How wise are little children who speak truth. Now I know where Powama went. Give me the paddle." So he took the paddle, but there was no need to paddle, for the water flowed steadily past all the islands till they came to the place called Pusat Tasik, the heart of the sea, where the great hollow is that leads down to the heart of the world, and in that hollow grows the wonderful tree, Puajangi, that bears the magic twin nuts. Then the eldest magician slid his arm up to the shoulder through the deep warm water, and under the roots of the wonderful tree he touched the broad back of Powama the crab. And Powama settled down at the touch, and all the sea rose up as water rises in a basin when you put your hand into it. "Ah," said the eldest magician, "now I know who has been playing with the sea." And he called out, "What are you doing, Powama?" And Powama, deep down below, answered, "Once a day and once a night I go out to look for my food. Once a day and once a night I return. Leave me alone." Then the eldest magician said, "Listen, Powama. When you go out from your cave, the waters of the sea pour down into the Pusat Tasik, and all the beaches of all the islands are left bare, and the little fish die. And the Raja Moyankaban, the king of the elephants, his legs are made muddy. When you come back and sit in Pusat Tasik, the waters of the sea rise, and half the little islands are drowned, and the man's house is flooded, and Raja Abdullah, the king of the crocodiles, his mouth is filled with the salt water. Then Powama, deep down below, laughed and said, I did not know I was so important. Henceforth I will go out 7 times a day, and the water shall never be still. And the eldest magician said, I cannot make you play the play you were meant to play, Powama, because you escaped me at the very beginning. But if you are not afraid, come up and we will talk about it. I am not afraid, said Powama, and he rose to the top of the sea in the moonlight. There was nobody in the world so big as Powama, for he was the king crab of all crabs. Not a common crab, but a king crab. One side of his great shell touched the beach at Sarawak, the other touched the beach at Pahang, and he was taller than the smoke of 3 volcanoes. As he rose up through the branches of the wonderful tree, he tore off one of the great twin fruits, the magic double-kerneled nuts that make people young. And the little girl daughter saw it bobbing alongside the canoe, and pulled it in and began to pick out the soft eyes of it with her little golden scissors. Now, said the magician, make a magic, Powama, to show that you are really important. Powama rolled up his eyes and waved his legs, but he could only stir up the sea because, though he was a king crab, he was nothing more than a crab, and the eldest magician laughed. You are not so important after all, Powama, he said. Now let me try. And he made a magic with his left hand, with just the little finger of his left hand. And lo and behold, best beloved, Powama's hard blue-green-black shell fell off him as a husk falls off a coconut, and Powama was left all soft. Soft as the little crabs that you sometimes find on the beach, best beloved. Indeed, you are very important, said the eldest magician. Shall I ask the man here to cut you with crease? Shall I send for Raja Moyang Kaban, the king of the elephants, to pierce you with his tusks? Or shall I call Raja Abdullah, the king of the crocodiles, to bite you? And Powama said, I am ashamed. Give me back my hard shell and let me go back to Puset Tasik, and I will only stir out once a day and once a night to get my food. And the eldest magician said, No, Powama, I will not give you back your shell, for you will grow bigger and prouder and stronger, and perhaps you will forget your promise, and you will play with the sea once more. Then Powama said, What shall I do? I am so big that I can only hide in Puset Tasik, and if I go anywhere else, all soft as I am now, the sharks and the dogfish will eat me. And if I go to Puset Tasik, as soft as I am now, though I may be safe, I can never stir out to get my food, and so I shall die. Then he waved his legs and lamented. Listen, Powama, said the eldest magician, I cannot make you play the play you were meant to play, because you escaped me at the very beginning. But if you choose, I can make every stone and every hole and every bunch of weed in all the seas a safe Puset Tasik for you and your children for always. Then Powama said, That is good, but I do not choose yet. Look, there is that man who talked to you at the very beginning. If he had not taken up your attention, I should not have grown tired of waiting and run away, and all this would never have happened. What will he do for me? And the man said, If you choose, I will make a magic, so that both the deep water and the dry ground will be a home for you and your children, so that you shall be able to hide both on the land and in the sea. And Powama said, I do not choose yet. Look, there is that girl who saw me running away at the very beginning. If she had spoken then, the eldest magician would have called me back, and all this would have never happened. What will she do for me? And the little girl daughter said, This is a good nut that I am eating. If you choose, I will make a magic, and I will give you this pair of scissors, very sharp and strong, so that you and your children can eat coconuts like this all day long when you come up from the sea to the land. Or you can dig a Puset Tasik for yourself with the scissors that belong to you when there is no stone or hole nearby. And when the earth is too hard, By the help of these same scissors, you can run up a tree." And Powema said, "I do not choose yet. For all soft as I am, these gifts would not help me. Give me back my shell, O eldest magician, and then I will play your play." And the eldest magician said, "I will give it back, Powema, for 11 months of the year. But on the 12th month of every year it shall grow soft again, to remind you and all your children that I can make magics, and to keep you humble, Powema. For I see that if you can run both under the water and on land, you will grow too bold. And if you can climb trees and crack nuts and dig holes with your scissors, you will grow too greedy, Powema." Then Powema thought a little and said, "I have made my choice. I will take the gifts." Then the eldest magician made a magic with the right hand, with all 5 fingers of his right hand. And lo and behold, best beloved, Powema grew smaller and smaller and smaller, till at last there was only a little green crab swimming in the water alongside the canoe, crying in a very small voice, "Give me the scissors." And the little girl daughter picked him up on the palm of her little brown hand, and sat him in the bottom of the canoe, and gave him her scissors. And he waved them in his little arms, and opened them, and shut them, and snapped them, and said, "I can eat nuts. I can crack shells. I can dig holes. I can climb trees. I can breathe in the dry air, and I can find a safe Pusataka under every stone. I did not know I was so important. Coon, is this right?" "Paya Coon," said the eldest magician, and he laughed and gave him his blessing, and the little Powema scuttled over to the side of the canoe into the water. And he was so tiny that he could have hidden under the shadow of a dry leaf on land, or of a dead shell at the bottom of the sea. "Was that well done?" said the eldest magician. "Yes," said the man, "but now we must go back to Perak, and that is a weary way to paddle. If we had waited till Powema had gone out of Pusataka and come home, the water would have carried us there by itself." "You are lazy," said the eldest magician. "So your children shall be lazy. They shall be the laziest people in the world. Oh, sorry. Ooh, we're gonna not read that part on there. Sorry. Okay." And he held up his finger to the moon and said, "Oh, fisherman, here is the man too lazy to row home. Pull his canoe home with your line, fisherman." "No," said the man. "If I am to be lazy all my days, let the sea work for me twice a day forever. That will save paddling." And the eldest magician laughed and said, "Paya Coon." And the rat of the moon stopped biting the line, and the fisherman let his line down till it touched the sea. And he pulled the whole deep sea along, past the island of Bintang, past Singapore, past Malacca, past Selangor, till the canoe whirled into the mouth of the Perak River again. "Coon," said the fisherman of the moon. "Paya Coon," said the eldest magician. "See now that you pull the sea twice a day and twice a night forever, so that the fishermen may be safe paddling. But be careful not to do it too hard, or I shall make a magic on you as I did to Powema." Then they all went up the Perak River and went to bed, best beloved. Now, listen and attend. From that day to this, the moon has always pulled the sea up and down and made what we call the tides. Sometimes the fish of the sea pulls a little too hard, and then we get spring tides. And sometimes he pulls a little too softly, and then we get what are called neap tides. But nearly always he is careful, because of the eldest magician. And Powema, you can see when you go to the beach how all Powema's babies make little Pusatasics for themselves under every stone and bunch of weeds in the sands. You can see them waving their little scissors, and in some parts of the world, they truly live on the dry land and run up the palm trees and eat coconuts, exactly as the little girl daughter promised. But once a year, all Powemas must shake off their hard armor and be soft, to remind them of what the eldest magician could do. And so it isn't fair to kill or hunt Powema's babies just because old Powema was stupidly rude a very long time ago. Oh, yes. And Pow Emma's babies hate being taken out of their little Pusit and brought home in pickle bottles. That is why they nip you with their scissors, and it serves you right. Oh, you guys, that was fun. I'm so glad you guys stayed. Whew, I am tired. I am tired. I'm going to sign off. Now all it feels so. Saturday, 3 o'clock. We're doing some more Poe. And if you guys have suggestions for this week, I would love to hear them. Again, thank you guys for being here. And wow, sorry. Yeah, that sucks. So I don't know where that came from. Sorry, guys. But I love you. And so if you eat through the skin of a rhino, you can have cake. Yes, Jason, if you can make it through eating the entire skin of a rhino, I will make you a cake from scratch, any flavor you want. The stories are sweet, Cheryl. What I didn't realize, what I had kind of forgotten, and apparently I should have read back through this book before we started. It, of course, was written in a different time. And so I have cleaned up just a bit of the language, which I know to an English teacher would probably be sacrilege. You read the text as it was written. And that comes from somebody who has very recently had a director say, stop paraphrasing. The writer wrote the words because he wanted those words. However, I will try to use my best judgment. So, again, guys, I love you. Cheryl, you absolutely deserve being spoiled. And Jason, go love on your wife. Give her my best. You guys hug each other for me because I can't come to Kentucky and hug you. So, yeah, I will see you guys on Saturday. Yes. Okay. Bye.